All right, let's bring her in. You know her from her Instagram accounts, Bachelor Data and Pop Culture Data. She is a multi-time guest on this show. Bringing her back to talk what we saw this historic season of Dancing with the Stars, it is Suzana Summers. Suzana, thank you for coming on.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me back. It's been a minute.
I know it has. And we need to dive into Dancing with the Stars. I don't even know if we even get to Bachelorette stuff because there really isn't anything to get to in terms of what you do numbers-wise because the show hasn't even started airing. We can talk maybe a little bit about her, but let's talk Dancing with the Stars. The finale was last Tuesday, and this season was very popular in that we kept hearing every week Alfonso say at the end of the show, a record-breaking number of votes. And I'm like, okay, but they could just be saying that. Is there any proof of this? We never know. They never show us the votes. So I guess my first question to you is, I'm not saying Alfonso is lying, but is there any sort of data that shows this, or we just kind of have to take their word for it?
Okay, so there isn't any official data that's released from the franchise, like on a week-to-week basis or anything like that. But good news for us is that last season they did start to share occasional numbers with us, the audience, for a few episodes. So taking a look at the voting structure of the show, it is also important to understand how voting works on this show. Also, taking a look back, if we're saying of all time, the historic most votes ever, you have to keep in mind that the way that voting on the show works is very different. So on Dancing with the Stars, if you don't watch the show, you can vote up to 10 times per couple. And this is what a lot of people don't realize who even watch the show in this day and age, watch every single episode. You don't have 10 votes per episode. You can vote up to 10 times per couple. So I could have, in the finale, voted 10 times for Robert. I could have also voted 10 more times for Jordan. I could have voted 10 more times for Alex Earl. You can vote 10 times for literally every single couple out there. And keeping in mind, looking back to the start date, back in the old days of this show, your only way of voting was by calling. And then it moved to texting. So now you can text and call. Then you can also text, call, and go on the website and do it with each email address that you have. So keeping in mind with the total number of votes, it's not a good correlation to think of how many people are actually watching the show, because if each person is watching and each person is voting, and putting in potentially 10 votes from multiple couples, it's going to be a really big number. And as time goes on, now that we can text and we can also go in via email address and go on the website to vote, there's all these different ways that you can put in hundreds of votes per night for the couples that you want. So taking a look back at last season, season 33, we did get a few numbers. So they released on week 2 last year in 2024 that they didn't have any eliminations week 1 for the premiere. Week 2 was Latin night, and they told us that there were 14 million votes combined for weeks 1 and 2. So about 7 million a night-ish, right? And then 2 weeks later, we also had another number put out for Disney Night that it was 16 million votes. And then nothing else was released. And then looking back at old seasons, I went back like 4 or 5 years. They just did not give us any numbers on how many votes were put in on any of the nights or for the season. Now, for this season, we did get a few numbers. So on dedication night, that was week 4, we got about 50 million votes, or it was 50.1, I believe. On Halloween night, the second night that we had, it was 50.1 as well. And then semifinals, or I think it was 60 that night, sorry. And then semifinals, which was Prince night, we had 56 million. And then for the finale, we had over 72 million votes. So that's a pretty big jump from last season for just the first week 2 and week 4 that we got. But they don't put those numbers out. So keep in mind also this season, we had a huge influx of Gen Z people who were watching the show. So they're voting like crazy for their favorites across the website, across texting, all of their friends' phones. We did see ratings and viewership go up this year. So definitely more people are watching as well.
Yeah, it's just the social media boom this season was literally out of control. And look, we know in the past few seasons, they have definitely upped their social media game, mainly on the TikTok side, definitely on the Instagram side as well. But it seems like every couple is putting out TikTok content. every single week, multiple TikToks every single week, which is getting the fans engaged. But to see this jump from last season to this season, like I've been trying to pinpoint, well, what could it be? It's clearly social media, but is it the type of contestants? Because this season they didn't stray from the norm in terms of who they typically cast. You got your Olympian, you got your older gentleman that's from, that the underdog that everybody roots for in Andy Richter, which is basically the Bill Engvall of season pass and other ones that they seem to cast every season. You have the people in the Disney family. Obviously, it was the Mormon wives, women this season. You got your social media influencer and Alex Earl. Like, I was like, well, they've cast this type every year. Why are these numbers so high? Do you have any explanation as to why these numbers were so much bigger than everybody else? Was it really the influx of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives to women?
So it was a lot of factors, okay? But what it does come down to is TikTok. The show has finally been embracing TikTok and social media in the last few years, and it's been growing year after year. And this year, everything came together with a lot of different variables. So if we look back in, it was 2022, season 31. That was our first season where they took it off of ABC, and it was exclusively on Disney Plus. Yeah. So that season, the season before, it was Amon Schubert who won, and then the season before that was Caitlin Bristow. So just to put people kind of back on that timeline. This season 31 in 2022, that is when they cast Charli D'Amelio. Charli D'Amelio used to be the most followed person on TikTok. She isn't anymore, but she's still up there. She has like over 100 million followers on TikTok. And she was also the first influencer that they cast on this show. The first real, we had seen people who had been on the show, like Caitlin Bristow, for example. She is an influencer, but she got famous because she went on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Charli D'Amelio never went on something to become TikTok famous afterwards. She grew her knowing, her following, simply from existing on TikTok. And that was the season that they really started to change up a lot of things. So the season before that, Tyra Banks, that was her last season. The season that they pulled off the network, went to Disney Plus. They replaced Tyra Banks with Julianne and Alfonso. They tried to just go to streaming because the show was kind of struggling before then, and it was really starting to lose viewership, starting to lose in the demo. So they started to embrace TikTok more that season by casting Charli D'Amelio. Now, between that season and the following season, is where Riley came on the show as a pro. And she was the first pro who really was embracing TikTok. She was putting out 2 to 3 TikToks a day. She got really popular that way as well. She was the sibling of a former pro. That season, we also had Xochitl Gomez who won. She was very popular on TikTok as well. Xochitl Gomez was a Disney actor from the Marvel franchise, and she won that season, also putting out a bunch of TikToks. And between Charli D'Amelio's season and Xochitl Gomez's season, with Riley coming on board, all of the pros started to notice, hey, when you create a lot of content on TikTok, you get a rabid fan base. Because they saw that with Xochitl, they saw it with Charli D'Amelio, they saw it with Riley, that when you start putting out a lot of content on TikTok, you're going to get a lot more engagement, which is going to lead to people voting for you more. And then we also saw it last season with Joey's season. We had Ezra joining the cast, who was making a ton of content showing behind the scenes. He was showing the drama between Gleb and his partner dating. And he was eliminated early, but he was still making a ton of content. All of this to say, it's been a perfect storm this season that they cast some really well-known influencers. So we had the Mom Talk, we had Whitney and Jen, who were first famous on TikTok and got so famous through the Mom Talk drama that now Taylor Frankie Paul's our next Bachelorette, that group of women got their own reality TV show. So it was the opposite order. And like Caitlin Bristow, for example, went on reality TV, then became an influencer. Mom Talk people, they got good on TikTok because their content was engaging to their niche, to their audience. And then they got the show. We also had Robert Irwin, which has the legacy from Bindi, from his dad. So the audience is going to love him. He was making a ton of content on TikTok. He was partnered with Whitney Carson, who also has a lot of really good social media growth before TikTok and also now. But mainly what we've been hearing, especially from the pros that have been doing podcast interviews, is that they've all been saying, production hasn't been forcing them, saying you have to make this many TikToks a week. But they have been feeling the pressure, and they're also seeing from their counterparts that when you make this content on TikTok, you get access to a new fan base that's going to tune in and vote for you. So over the last 4 seasons, what we've really just been seeing is embracing of TikTok. We also had Alex Earl, who was cast. And I just want to put in a disclaimer at this point for those listening. When I talk about data about these people, whether it's Taylor Frankie Paul, Alex Earl, Robert Irwin, whoever it is, Jordan Childs, like, I am speaking strictly from the data perspective and not saying anything from the I support these influencers, because I have gotten a little bit of pushback of, why are you putting Alex Earl on a platform? Like, she's just an influencer. She supports this. She supports that. I'm strictly talking from the business hat perspective, from what Disney's trying to do. They're trying to keep this show on air and make it as successful as humanly possible. And what they're seeing is, when they cast pros, when they cast actual contestants that are going to embrace and make a ton of TikToks, it's going to only help their business more, regardless if they're a controversial figure or if they're really big with only one generation, like Alex Earl's big with Gen Z. It's only going to help the show in the long run.
And for me, as someone who's watched this show since season 1, obviously I've seen the growth of the social media aspect from this franchise, and I can't flip through when the season is airing. I can't flip through Instagram search or my TikTok For You page and not see numerous posts being made by the contestants and these couples. And I follow none of the contestants. I don't even follow them. And yet they're showing up on my For You page. I don't follow Whitney Carson. I don't follow Riley. I don't follow any of them. Any of the men, any of the women pro dancers, none of them. But yet I constantly see it. So obviously it is making some effect. And you talk about the pros from this season. It's funny because the phrase Dancing with the Stars, when this show first came out, Dancing with the Stars was, hey, it's a show about professional ballroom dancers, and they are going to dance with a quote-unquote star from the TV world. Obviously, star is used very loosely because a lot of these people aren't stars anymore. But over the years, the stars ended up becoming more popular than the contestants that they were dancing with. Like, Derek Huff just became so popular to where this guy, if it wasn't for the Dancing with the Stars franchise, he doesn't have his own show in Las Vegas at the Venetian. And you've got Max and some other people starting dance companies and stuff like that because of this show. They're almost the stars now. In recent seasons, yeah, you've gotten some bigger names, like you said, Alex Earl, Charlie D'Amelio, that were stars in their own, niche part of the internet. Charlie was obviously huge on TikTok, and when they cast her, I'm like, well, she's going to win. Not only is she super popular on TikTok, she's also a professionally trained dancer since she was like 3. Like, of course she was going to win. I still think, for my money, she was the best dancer in the history of the show. Not saying much because she was already a great dancer, but I just thought every single performance was unreal by her. But I want you to compare the pros on this show to their social media growth versus previous seasons, because it looks like even the pros are now blowing up on this show as they're getting more and more popular, that people might not even care who they're dancing with. They're just like, I want to keep Whitney Carson on the show. I want to keep whoever on the, like, I'm blanking on every single name, even though I know all the dancers, but I want to keep them on the show. I don't care who they're dancing with. Talk about that. Talk about that growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we hop into that, I do want to challenge one thing that you said is the definition of a star. Yeah. Because there is a lot of pushback of that every season, right? Every time that the cast drops, people are like, these are stars. I don't know who half these people are. And I do think that there needs to be a reframing of an understanding of what to be famous is in this day and age. Look at me, for example. I only have 150,000 followers on Bachelor data. I think I'm just below that. And then on pop culture data, I think I only have like 30,000 followers. That being said, I have had people come up to me when I'm out in public, literally not dressed in pink, no makeup, hair's up, like oversized sweatshirt, sick with them. Like, I've had moments where I'm out in public at the grocery store and somebody will come up to me and be like, oh my God, Bachelor data. I don't know what your name is, but I love your page. Like, I am quite literally a nobody compared to a Robert Irwin, right? Who people will say Robert Irwin is a star because of his dad, his legacy, etc. But like, when you look at somebody like Alex Earl, right? She is a girl who went to college, started a TikTok page where she was dancing and drinking, and that's how she became famous. And look at her now. She owns multiple companies, she came in second place. She gained over 1.2 million followers just while she was on this show, but she already had like 7 million followers on TikTok. You know, the concept of what a star is, and this is the big thing that I like to bring up, is that yes, you can be a star within your own niche, right? That yes, women who watch The Bachelor are more likely to recognize me, whereas if it's just a man who watches the NFL, they're going to have no idea who I am. But that being said, the thing that I find really powerful about social media in this day and age is the power that anybody has to create a community. In the past, it was you had to be cast to be an actress on a movie or on a TV show to become famous. Somebody else held the power to you being able to get access to being well known. Whereas with this day and age on social media, anybody can get out there. And for me, you know, I try to use my platform not only to provide this type of data, but to also help people with learning Excel and making data cool for a portion of the population that's generally pushed out in the workplace, women. We are typically pushed out in the workplace, and it's harder for us to embrace things like data analysis and this type of information. So I use my platform for that. Other people like Alex Earl, she uses it for going out partying and that kind of stuff, but she still builds a community. There's a really big power that we have now, and I feel like people belittle influencers so much, but reframing it from anybody has the power now to create a community. And it's so amazing that in this day and age, nobody holds that power from us, especially us women. I think that that's really powerful. Even when it's somebody like Alex Earl that like, I look at her and I'm like, wow, she built her following just from like going out and getting drunk every night and making videos about it. But if you look at it, she's actually a really great content creator and builds community fantastically in her niche. It's just not a niche that I care about. So people like really belittle influencers. And whenever I try to challenge that conversation, people look at my page and be like, well, but you're not an influencer. You're different. And it's like, I am an influencer. I'm a content creator who makes content and I sell stuff to people. Like that's what I do. That's what all influencers do. There's just people will value differently. And for some reason, I feel like this influencer niche is so belittled mainly because it's so women focused. So I just want to push back on that. That's my little soapbox thing. But going back to your question, regarding the pros themselves, this is what's so crazy. I think I sent you this data this morning on the contestants from this season. Let me pull up the pros numbers here so I can actually like say them out right. So last season, 2024, that was the season where Alana Millar was on it, Chandler, Jen, Joey, etc. For the pros, the people who gained the most followers were Riley Arnold. She gained 735,000 followers. We had Ezra, who came on that season for the first time. He gained 400,000. This is across TikTok and Instagram. Alan gained 338,000. Whitney gained 287,000 when she was partnered with Danny Amendola. Sasha gained 261,000. But now looking at this season of Dancing with the Stars, it is absolutely crazy. So Whitney Carson gained almost 800,000 followers this season. Jenna Johnson, who was the first eliminated. They had her last season, she won with Joey, so she went to somebody who wasn't as popular this season. She gained 777,000 followers.
She had Corey Feldman. Yeah.
She had Corey. Gone first with Baron and Britt. So
was you probably follow her. Was she still producing content after she was done with Corey?
More. She went
What content was she producing? What was she doing?
So much content, dancing videos, behind the scenes. There was a controversy where Alex Earl and Val were doing this dance move where Alex basically got on Val's shoulders, but not like you're carrying somebody piggyback style. Like, you know, you put kids on top of your shoulders. It was the reverse where Alex was in front of him, where it was kind of like her, yes. Her parts were in his face, but then she drops down and then he spins her. And there were so many people in the comment section being like, oh my God, Val's wife, Jenna is so much better for me for allowing this, and like forgetting that they're professional dancers and this is what they do. And then Jenna and Alex went viral because Jenna did it with Alex on her shoulders, where Alex got on her shoulders and did the same move. And then those went ultra viral. It was just every week she was putting out so much content. And this is where I feel like the power is that people don't realize is that Jenna, even though she was eliminated week 1, she didn't just say, peace out, I'm going to go help the other pros with stuff, be the background dancer in these videos. She continued to create content to build her fan base, thinking towards next season that she's going to have this rabid fan base from all of the growth, the 777 1,000 new followers she got this season, it's not only going to help her with brand deals, but it's going to help her next season whenever she gets her next pro, that they're going to show up and not only vote for the pro, that fan base is going to vote for their pro or their star, but Jenna is going to have a fan base wanting to vote for her. I mean, looking at me, I watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I'm covering it. Is it my favorite show? No, it really isn't. I watch it. It's trash. It's amazing. It's great trash TV. I think it's produced really well. It's one of Hulu's biggest shows right now. But when Whitney was partnered with Mark Ballas, I'm voting Mark Ballas to the finals because I want to see his freestyle, not necessarily because I liked Whitney. I like Whitney now after this season, but like same thing with like Jen and Jan. I loved Jan from the Eras Tour with Taylor Swift, that I wanted to vote him through because I thought he was a character and I loved him more than I actually liked Jen. So I think we're going to start seeing that over the next few years, is that the pros are going to become so famous that they're going to have an advantage over other pros coming in, or other pros that aren't making as much content, like Pasha. Pasha really doesn't make much content, and we see him at the bottom of the growth charts every season, every week.
Yeah. I want to talk about Alex Earl real quick and the Whitney thing with the finale and doing a freestyle on Call Her Daddy, because I said it at the time that we all know Whitney Levitt was the best dancer this season. Clearly, she has, again, someone that had a professional dance background. We just found out a day ago that she is going to Broadway and she is going to play in the very famous role Roxy in the play Chicago, musical Chicago. So great for her. My whole thing with them going on Call Her Daddy, which I had no problem doing the interview, but the freestyle dance that they did on Call Her Daddy was rehearsed, produced, and edited. It's like, this isn't if she were to make it to the finale, that's not the dance that she would have been able to do. Like, this was a sliced and diced. I'm not saying the dance wasn't good. It was great. But people were like literally dying over that freestyle dance. I'm like, but that's not what she would have been able to do. Second dance. You're not allowed to edit it and have costume changes. I just thought it was really weird in that aspect. However, going back to the Alex Earl part of it, I don't know the behind the scenes shenanigans behind this. Maybe you do because you follow it a little bit more. Alex Earl was part of the Call Her Daddy network, I believe, at one point. And if I'm not mistaken, Alex Earl and Alex Cooper have had a falling out. And I'm wondering if putting Mark and Whitney and having them do their finale freestyle dance on that was Alex Cooper taking a mild shot at Alex Earl. Do you think it was? Was there a falling out? Am I remembering that correctly?
So you are remembering it correctly. So Alex Earl, when she was graduating from college, everybody was like, what's she going to do next? Blah, blah, blah. She didn't have a podcast. And Alex Cooper, who is the host of Call Her Daddy, also for a number of years was the largest podcast in the United States. It's always been the largest for women. Globally, it was also the largest podcast one year. It's a big podcast. Alex Cooper, this is very confusing. There are two Alexes. Alex Cooper is A-L-E-X. E-X. Alex Earl is A-L-I-X. Alex Cooper decided in that year that Alex Earl was graduating from college that she was going to launch the Unwell Network. The Unwell Network is a podcasting and media network where she is signing up Gen Z talent to help them become podcast influencers. Yeah. So Alex Earl was the first one that she signed. She also signed some other influencers that were from different niches, some with a big following, some with a very small following that cover everything from like pop culture to news to just talking about their lives.
People thought she signed Maria from Joey's season. And because Maria was hanging out with her and attending all these events, and we haven't heard anything about Maria in the Unwell Network since. So I have no idea what that was about. But people thought Maria was part of it.
And there's a chance that she wanted Maria and that the franchise pushed back because they had Maria under control with her contract for a year post-finale.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
could have been. But the big thing was that they signed Alex Cooper signed Alex Earl. And Alex Earl started a podcast with her called Hot Mess with Alex Earl. And it started first as a podcast and then moved to a more like video-based podcast. And long story short, what's come out is that Alex Earl wanted to leave. Alex Earl has said generally that she made some bad business decisions before her dad came in and helped start to manage her brand, all of her stuff. People think that that's alluding to her partnership with Alex Cooper. Now, the big difference here is that if you've heard about Call Her Daddy and Alex Cooper's podcast, Call Her Daddy, started with Barstool Sports, the Barstool Network.
Yeah.
It was the first female podcast that they had. Dave Portnoy signed her and her old co-host, Sophia Franklin. And there was a big falling out there between Alex Cooper, Sophia Franklin, her co-host, and Dave Portnoy when Sophia and Alex were at odds, either wanting to renegotiate their contract or leave and shop their podcast to another network. And long story short, what happened there is that there was a lot of control over who could own the IP to Call Her Daddy. So that's the intellectual property. And what ended up happening is Sophia Franklin got pushed out. Alex Cooper got to keep Call Her Daddy and agreed with Dave Portnoy to stay for one more year. And then she could leave not only with the podcast, but with the IP for the podcast. So she wouldn't have to leave Barstool Network and start a new podcast called something else. She could take the brand name Call Her Daddy with her. Now, the big thing that happened here between Alex Cooper and Alex Earl is that when Alex Earl wanted out, they had a couple months that they had their business negotiations. And Alex Cooper did let Alex Earl keep her IP to Hot Mess. So Alex Earl left, and now she just does her quote unquote podcast, but it's more of a vlog style on YouTube. And it's still called Hot Mess with Alex Earl. She got to keep everything. But there was a falling out between them that for a number of months, we stopped seeing them together. They weren't partying together. And then it was announced that they were splitting. It does seem like it was less contentious than Alex Cooper with Sophia Franklin. Also, mind you guys, I haven't been a Call Her Daddy fan from back in that day. This is just the historical side of it. I'm not telling it from any bias here, but this is just kind of what I've gathered from both sides of the story. That seems to be the medium. Now, when it comes to, was this a dig that Alex Cooper did against Alex Earl to kind of take the limelight away from Alex Earl getting second place? And, Whitney, if we look at social media growth this season, she did fantastic this season. And dancing wise, she had higher scores than Alex Earl and Robert throughout the season. Here's my take on it that I think a lot of people don't take into account in this conversation. Alex Cooper is a Hulu person now. Alex Cooper released last year Call Her Alex with Hulu. It was a docuseries on her life where she came out about her sexual harassment at BU. She showed all of her tour and everything. So she had already signed with Hulu. The other thing that Alex Cooper is doing is that she is releasing a reality TV dating show that's going to be a competition show with Hulu next year. So it's going to be a Hulu-based reality TV show that's dating. So she is under the Hulu, Disney, ABC network. So if you guys don't know this, Hulu, ABC, Disney Plus, those are all owned by Disney. So when you're a partner with Hulu, that means you're a partner with Disney. So what we have been seeing from the Disney umbrella, even with Jen Tran and Maria, is that we are now seeing in the last 2 years that whenever there's a big controversy on the Bachelor franchise, what's the first podcast they go on? It's not Nick Viall's podcast. It's Call Her Daddy now.
Yeah.
So Call Her Daddy does seem to be the publicity baby of the Disney umbrella now. And what we did see was in the first post on social media that Alex Cooper and Call Her Daddy did announcing that Whitney was going to be on it. Who commented first on those posts? The official Dancing with the Stars account and the ABC publicity accounts posted on that page. So if I had to take this is my hot take, Disney, ABC, Hulu, that whole media conglomerate went to Alex Cooper and said, hey, we know that so-and-so is going to be eliminated this week, or we think that they're going to be eliminated. What do you think? And then they started to kind of put this whole project together once Whitney got eliminated. Now, yes, it was a very different freestyle than we would have seen. They wouldn't have been able to spit out that water. The costume change probably would have looked a little different. She probably would have had one on top that they could have ripped off when she was covered by people that we've seen like Taylor Swift did on the Eras tour. It probably would have been a little different, but I mean, the freestyle was still genius. And I think that's what a lot of people were excited about is people like me. I just wanted to see a Mark Ballas freestyle, regardless of who he was paired with. And I think he did a great job with a really good dancer. Now, do I think Alex Cooper probably was yeah, of course I'm going to do this for the network. But if there is beef there, maybe. But
Yeah.
I do think it was done tastefully. Like I watched the whole podcast interview. I think it was like an hour long, and they didn't talk about Alex Earl at all, or like I didn't hear any diss.
Well,
So
remember the other thing that you mentioned, and that you forgot to mention there, is that the announcement of Taylor Frankie Paul as our Bachelorette was done on Call Her Daddy, which was
exactly.
clearly a synergy thing again. And in recent seasons, if I'm not mistaken, was Maria the first Bachelor contestant to go on Call Her Daddy, or somebody was, or maybe Nick went on? Was Nick on Call Her Daddy before Maria ever was?
It was either Nick Viall or Colton.
Or Colton,
one of those
right,
two was the first on. If I had to guess, I think it was Colton when he came out.
Yeah.
But it might have been Nick Viall just before that, because Nick Viall had, I mean, I don't want to like shade Nick Viall too much here. I personally don't like the man, but like
makes two of us.
Yeah. He does have a very successful podcast. He is really good at getting good guests. Is he the best podcaster out there? No. But I mean, also, is Alex Cooper the best podcaster out there? No. But they do have rabid fan bases that support them. And I think it was genius of the Disney conglomerate to pull Alex Cooper in to not only host her docuseries, but also give her the chance to start producing her own reality TV, because now they have somebody who is under their umbrella, who is under contract with them, that will play ball with them to help also push some of their shows out there to her audience. So it does seem like a symbiotic, you scratch my back, I scratch your relationship.
Which leads me to my take that she seems like an obvious choice to be a contestant on next season of Dancing with the Stars. Now, she's a very busy woman. We don't know if this reality dating show that she filmed this past summer in Malta that Gabby Windy is hosting, first off, we don't even know when it's coming out. Maybe it's coming out in Q1 or Q2 of 2026, or maybe it's coming out in Q3, which would put it right around the Dance with the Stars premiere. Alex Cooper has a lot of irons in the fire of what she does. So maybe it would be hard for her to dedicate so much time to dancing, because we know these contestants are dancing for 6, 8, 10 hours a day during rehearsals. But she seems like somebody that, hell, even if she gets eliminated in weeks 3 or 4, just her popularity, like we've talked about, she has the most famous, if not top 3 or 5 now, most famous podcasts in America. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I would think they would at least ask her. It's just a matter of whether or not she would do it, and I have no idea based on her schedule. But she seems like a shoo-in to at least say, Alex, will you be a contestant next season? Because that will draw eyeballs, which is what they're looking for.
Absolutely. But honestly, if I've been watching Alex Cooper's career trajectory for a while now, just because she has such a big podcast. I'm not going to lie. There's certain guests that I will tune in to listen. Yeah. But again, I do have my critiques of her as a podcast host. I always try to stay, even when I do have my favorites, I do try to stay as unbiased as I can in my like discussion of them. And I do try to always keep in mind the negatives around everybody's got their negatives. But if I had to guess Alex Cooper's career trajectory from everything I've been seeing, she is trying to set herself up to move away from the public eye. So if you look at her, she recently launched her media network Unwell, where she's signing a ton of Gen Z influencers to become podcast hosts. Now, if you don't understand what that means for Alex Cooper in her career, is that she signs these people on, gives them the platform, gives them the help with hiring the editors and all that kind of stuff. And then she takes a percentage of whatever ad revenue that podcast generates. So that is going to be passive income for her, passive-ish, right? Less that she doesn't have to be the face of those brands, but she's helping other people become the face of their brands and taking a cut of it, kind of like an angel investor. If you look at now, she's creating a reality TV show. So she's going behind the scenes. She's not the host of it. Gabby Windy is. So that's going to be coming out next year. She also, she launched, what was it? The drinks, the like energy, caffeine, hydration drinks with Target.
I thought those were Unwell. Aren't they was called Unwell drinks?
Yeah, the Unwell drinks. Yeah. And then also, she hasn't released this yet, but whenever you apply for a patent, it is public information. She's going to have a vodka brand coming out soon as well. So that's an IP that her brand has also applied for with a logo and everything. So if I had to assume, that's probably going to come out next year. So from everything that I'm seeing and discussions that she's been having, she has said recently, I feel like in the last year, that she's putting off having kids for a few more years. So if I had to guess, I think she's trying to set herself up so she can slowly start to move away from the public eye and instead be behind the scenes person. I had heard also Nick Viall, did this ever happen? He was also trying to create his own podcasting network.
That's what I thought when he signed that deal with Libsyn. I thought it was like they were saying he's going to establish shows underneath his umbrella. And the only one I've ever, I think, heard of was that one that Katie Maloney was part of from Vanderpump Rules. But I don't follow her, so I don't even know if she's still doing that podcast. But I haven't heard any shows coming out under any sort of Nick Viall umbrella. I could be wrong, though.
And it makes sense, right? What these people get to the point of doing. And this is something that happened to me over the last 2 years. Like, I got burnt out on social media content creation. If you're listening to me right now, you've probably been like, where the heck has she been in the last year? Like, you get on this hamster wheel of constantly having to make content. And quite honestly, I know it's a very privileged take. I come from the education world. I used to have a much more difficult job before when I was a tech director, back when I was an elementary teacher a decade ago. Like, my job was significantly harder, but there is a toll that making content takes on you. And it's not the process of content creation, but it's also like the hate that you get online. I've set up a lot of really good filters that I don't get the like vitriol that we saw like Mark Ballas say that he got on the Call Her Daddy podcast. Like, but I used to see that stuff, and I've set up filters so I don't see it anymore. But like, it does take a toll on you mental health wise. And I decided to prioritize my mental health the last year or two and work on some other projects that I have that I've been working on. And those have been bringing me joy. But I think that this makes sense for Alex Cooper's career trajectory. But it also wouldn't surprise me if she does go on the show as her like last hurrah before, she starts to build those other brands.
Yeah, I mean, she's insanely popular. Like I said, it would make sense for ABC, Disney, Hulu to do whatever they can to put her on that show. She certainly doesn't need it for any sort of monetary reasons. Alex Cooper could fall off the face of the earth right now and quit everything, and her kids' are taken care of for life. She has made a shit ton of money. And deservedly so.
And her husband's super successful too in his own right.
Yeah, see, so it has nothing to do with money for her, because we know to go on Dance with the Stars, just to go on the show, you usually get a base of 125 or 150, and then you get a bonus every week you last. She probably has $125,000 in cash in her back pocket. Like, that's penny. $125,000 to Alex Cooper is literally probably a nickel to me and you. I mean, that's being honest. She's got so much money, it's coming out of her ear holes. But doesn't mean that having her on the show wouldn't draw eyeballs. And then, like you said, that's what they're after. They're looking for who is going to draw the most attention to our show. And someone like her would make a ton of sense.
Yeah, I have a note somewhere on how much they make on Dancing with the Stars, because Bobby Bones actually put out the week-to-week pay, and it's still the same.
Yeah, it's like 125 base, and then like $20,000 bonus each week. You last weeks 1 to 3, 30,000, 4 to 6.
Here it is.
40,000. Okay, what is it?
Yeah, base pay just to go on is $125,000. So just for going on, and that's also why, if people don't realize, why don't they eliminate week one? If they eliminate week one, they're letting these stars go that they hired early that they've already paid them for. So they don't get paid anything for week one. Starting week two, back when Bobby Bones was on, they get a $10,000 bump each week. I do think it's more now. You said 20?
I thought it was 20 for every week you last, weeks 1 to 3, and then 30 weeks 4 to 6, 40 weeks 7 to 9, and if you make the finale, it's a $50,000 bonus.
So back when Bobby Bones was on the show, so he said this on his radio show, like exactly the pay structure back then. So this was back in 2018, I believe.
Okay.
So 125 just for going on, nothing week one. And then week two, they started getting $10,000 a week for the weeks 2 and 3. So it was $10,000, $10,000. And then starting week 4, it was $25K every single week. And then the last 2 weeks of the season, so semifinals and finals, they get $50K a week.
Okay. So somewhat, I mean, if you do the math, it's probably, a little bit less than what I thought. But yeah. I remember seeing somebody.
And also on that note too, I do want to put a quick thing out there, because there are so many people that are new to the franchise, to remember that this is a game show. So there are laws here in the United States that regulate how much producer manipulation there can be within like a game show versus on The Bachelor, if you win or you don't win any money. So those laws aren't regulating the Bachelor franchise. So in the Bachelor franchise, they can manipulate the crap out of that show. On Dancing with the Stars, because there is monetary gain for how far you make it on this game show, there are rules with that. So I have seen some people being like, oh, well, they, so-and-so probably didn't actually get enough votes, but production likes them, so they just put them through anyway. There are laws on how Dancing with the Stars is regulated that they can't mess with. But that being said, there are certain things that can influence, like the number of votes, like the order that they are shown each week, like if they go first versus they go last, and that kind of stuff. So I just want to put that out there on the topic of week to week and monetary gains, that does mean that the show is regulated by that they can't go in there and just decide to keep someone unless they introduce the element they used to have, like judges save. That the structure was instead that each week, whenever it came down to the elimination, it was 2 people were in the final 2, and then the judges pick who was eliminated from the bottom 2.
And it's why there's a lot more producer manipulation on Bachelor and Bachelorette, because there's no monetary prize there. So you can sit there and manipulate people into saying and doing things, and maybe sending somebody home that the show wants to send home. I want to talk about this. Obviously, the ratings we've discussed, just the social media growth, but the television ratings for this, again, just something we haven't heard. I went over at my podcast last week, but I want to read again for people that might have missed it in my podcast last week that finale that aired last Tuesday night was the top entertainment telecast since ABC aired the Oscars earlier this year, both in total viewers and adults 18 to 49. And it captured a 53% audience share in the demo, which was the largest share of available viewers for any broadcast entertainment series since the 2004 series finale of Friends. And for people that missed it last week, I'll explain it again. What that means is everybody in the United States in the 18 to 49 demo who had their TV turned on last Tuesday night for the Dancing with the Stars finale, 53% of those TVs were tuned in to the Dancing with the Stars finale. That is literally insane for a show that has been on for 34 seasons. If this was like the new craze, like when Survivor in its first season had 50 million people tune into the Richard Hatch ending, okay. We're so deep into reality TV series. This is season 34. The fact that they drew that number is mind-boggling to me. I can't even explain it.
Yeah, the big thing that's so crazy about it too is that, like you're saying, in this day and age, or you think back to when Bachelor started or when Survivor started, your only form of entertainment was to physically leave your house and go to the movie theater. It was to read a book. It was to listen to the radio. It was to go to Blockbuster and pick something up to watch on your DVD player or your VHS player, okay? In this day and age, the number of entertainment options that you have that don't require you to leave the house are crazy. TV is now fighting against streaming, video gaming, YouTube, TikTok, and the majority of what we're seeing with Gen Z is that they consume social media more than they consume TV. Nobody watches the news anymore unless, the news is dead. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But the whole point of this to say is that the fact that 50% of people who had their TV turned on showed up for Dancing with the Stars. And that's the biggest that we've seen since 2004. I'm 35. That was back when I was 14 when Friends ended. Okay. For us to see a show like Dancing with the Stars that literally was pulled from network television for a season to try to just do streaming on Disney Plus a few years ago. And now it's not only come back to network TV, but it is thriving to the point where it is seeing bigger numbers than we've seen since 2004 is absolutely insane. And it goes back to what the franchise is doing well is the pros are embracing TikTok. They are casting people who are famous because of TikTok. And it is bringing in this new generation that is more important than your generation, Steve, and then my generation as a millennial. We are not as important right now. And when it comes to companies wanting to sell ads as Gen Z is, and what we're seeing the franchise do fantastically well is embrace TikTok. And that goes back to Taylor Frankie Paul getting cast to be the next Bachelorette. It is a Hail Mary that the Bachelor franchise is doing to try to save a franchise that has been around since the earliest days of reality TV or modern day reality TV. I think the first reality TV show was like 1945, but our concept of reality TV in this day and age, it's a Hail Mary, and I think it's going to work. And we're seeing it work with Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we're going to wrap up with a couple things here is the social media growth of the overall growth of this show. You pointed out in one of your posts is obviously we know Robert was huge. He was basically first in social media growth every single week. Alex Earl was second, not surprised.
On Instagram.
On Instagram.
On TikTok, Robert fluctuated a little bit, but he was still always in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, and they were top 2, but the third biggest growth on social media was the Dancing with the Stars official verified account, which I don't follow, but I'm sure I saw a bunch of their reels and clips this season. That is crazy that the Dance with the Stars official account outgrew basically every contestant but 2.
Yeah. So here are the numbers from this season, our final numbers. So this goes from the day before the premiere of Dancing with the Stars. So the Monday before the premiere started, and all the way up until yesterday, December 1st. So 1 week post finale. Robert Irwin across Instagram and TikTok gained 2.35 million followers. So on TikTok, he gained 1 million followers. On Instagram, he gained 1.35 million. Alex Earl gained 1.23 million. The official Dancing with the Stars accounts across Instagram and TikTok gained over 1 million followers, nearly 1.1 million, which is crazy. So not only are we seeing that the pros are becoming super famous, they're casting also really famous stars from a variety of niches, which is a great business decision. But we're also seeing all of that come together in support of the franchise as well. So this is really good for the long-term health of the franchise, that not only are people invested in the pros who are going to show up season to season, the stars who are just for the current season, but we're also seeing people want to stick around and actually see the content for the show itself. And huge props to their social media team. Whoever runs that, they're doing a fantastic job at putting out content there as well.
Yeah, no, the amazing thing again about this is I can't reiterate this enough. This is a show in its 34th season. You just don't see growth like this in a television show that's been on for, I don't know, years wise. What year did this show start? 05, no, because I remember I was watching it in my apartment with the one girl that I've lived with in my life, and I lived with her in 04. So
it was 2005. June.
See, I don't even remember when I lived with her. It was 2005?
Yeah.
I lived with Jessica in 2005.
June 1st, 2005. 6 celebrities that season.
Huh.
We had Trista Sutter, who was Bachelorette #1.
Yeah. Evander Holyfield.
She was the first one eliminated. Second was Evander Holyfield. Rachel Hunter, who was a supermodel, Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block, John O'Hurley, who was a television show actor, and then Kelly Monaco won.
And then everybody got upset that everybody got upset that Kelly Monaco won. So they came back and did, like 2 months later, they did they almost did the finale over again where John O'Hurley competed against Kelly Monaco so everyone could vote, and John O'Hurley won. It was like really, really weird. People were that upset that they did another finale like a month or 2 months later just so John O'Hurley could dance against Kelly Monaco, and the votes went John O'Hurley's way, and it was just like, wait, so did he win the season? Or what was the point of this? Like, dismissing Kelly Monaco's win? It was so bizarre.
Dude, Steve, that predates me. My first reality TV show I watched was Big Brother back in high school.
Do you remember what season it was?
Oh, man. It was around the Rachel Riley era, but it was before Rachel Riley.
I think, if we talk about modern day reality TV, I guess technically the first one would have been, you mentioned that 1945 show, but in terms of how we know reality TV now, I guess it would be Cops, because that was literally just looking at live. But if we're looking at reality TV in terms of hiring or, casting a show, I think the first, I guess it would have been Real World. Would Real World be considered? That would have been it, right?
It was like Real World, Survivor, that whole era. But also keep in mind, there used to be what were those shows back in the 70s where like 3 women would go on and talk to like some mystery man that was
the dating game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first reality TV show was like 1940 something.
Okay.
But
those are like, they were dating, but they were also like game showish. Yeah. Dating Game, Love Connection with Chuck Woolery. I mean, I used to watch those all the time growing up. It was just hilarious. But
my first season of Big Brother was 2008 with when Dan Gosling won.
See, I didn't watch it until
I was a junior.
COVID.
Or senior.
Yeah, season 21 was my first season. So, yeah, I was out of that craze only because I was like, I can't do this, too much time to dedicate. And now during the summer, I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I can do this. But anyway, Suzana, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Check her out, Bachelor Data on Instagram, Pop Culture Data on Instagram. She's got a lot of stuff up. Basically, visuals of what we talked about in today's podcast are all up on either of those Instagram pages. So again, thanks for coming on, Suzana. We'll be in touch, obviously.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Bye.